Hello, my name is Kefka14. Welcome to my Doaemon to Any Percent tutorial. This tutorial is going to serve as a English video walkthrough for being able to get through the game just as quick as possible in general, but more specifically for the purposes of speedrunning. There aren't a whole lot of resources for this game in English online. However, there is one really good comprehensive walkthrough of the game that details where all items can be found and such on GameFAQs.com. It is also linked on Speedrun Academy. Special thanks to Lago123 for writing that guide. Without that guide, this route would not be possible. So with that out of the way, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a fresh file. We want it to be file 1 if you're playing on console, especially because we're going to have at one point later in the run where we reset the console in order to manipulate some NPC movement. So you want to press Z, A, and that'll erase the file. The next thing you want to do is you want to press L, and with this you'll come to this menu here. There's really only two settings that matter. This one here and this one. You want to set the difficulty to easy, which is the setting on the right. And this setting here, this controls the flow of time within the game. The game has a night and day system and kind of like a Majora's Mask-esque sort of thing. This controls the flow of time. We are going to change this later in the run, but we're going to start with it set to fast here. After that, you're ready to begin the run. Timing begins after you press A on this screen. Immediately after pressing A, mash start to skip the cutscene. This is the only skippable cutscene in the game. Keep that in mind. So definitely start mashing start as soon as you begin your timer. In 3, 2, 1, go. So immediately we get a cutscene. There are quite a few cutscenes in this game. I encourage all new runners to experiment with ways of skipping these cutscenes, but for now, there isn't a way to do so. And even if we could, there are some things that prevent us from proceeding regardless. But that is a different topic entirely. Immediately run forward, you'll get some text boxes, and then another cutscene. This cutscene here is what I call a pan shot cutscene. There are a number of these in the game, and they essentially serve to just introduce the player to the area. With that being said, these cutscenes can be skipped if a way is found around their trigger. Immediately run through that little gap there, and we'll get a cutscene where we're introduced to the second character in the game here, Sneech. Speaking of, the first character we're playing as is Nobi. You talk to Sneech by pressing B, and after you press B, just simply mash A to go through the text. It's also worth mentioning that you can get through text boxes as fast as you can mash A, more or less. After that, you come up here and go to this little area, and then we'll get Big G. Mash B as this cutscene fades, and you'll automatically talk to Big G. Then just press A a couple times, and it'll take us to character select. Just mash A through this, and we'll continue to play as Nobi. After this, hold left, down, up left. And we're going to go in that direction. Get a couple text boxes, and then another cutscene. For the purposes of a tutorial, I am not mashing through text as fast as I would in a speedrun. But for the sake of demonstration, I will very quickly mash through the remaining text boxes in this section of the tutorial. Should have mentioned before, this area is called Crystal Forest. So, after this, you'll see an item laying on the ground. Collect it. Once that little text box goes away, and I didn't dismiss that, it just fades away on its own after a few moments. You can't dismiss it any other way. Once it fades away, you can then pause. You'll want to go to your second menu and just mash A as quick as possible to use this item here, which is the Shrink Ray. So, once that cutscene is over, you want to go through where that rock was. Collect this item here. This is called a sleeping capsule. What it does essentially is allows you to sleep and let the day pass. We're gonna go ahead and collect it. It's useful later in the run. Follow this trail of crystals until you get to about right here, and a cutscene will trigger. It's worth mentioning that it's a little easier to move around in this game if you turn the camera as you're walking. This will allow you to maintain a particular angle on the joystick and still have good, efficient lines. So I'll mash through this text as quick as I can, just for the sake of demonstration. That's right after this cutscene. Yes, so you can dismiss text quickly. There's a text trigger here, and another. But before we move forward, this next text trigger, it's only a single text box. If we actually manage to be in the air when it triggers, we can mash A before landing and not actually stop our movement. It's worth noting because, well, it's helpful and it saves a few moments. Like so. So try to jump into that text trigger. Here, another trigger happens, and then we run to here, and another trigger happens. So from this point, we continue around. We'll get some text boxes here, and then we'll run forward and get some text boxes, and the game takes control of your character from this point and runs straight to this crystal, where we get more text boxes. Then you want to take a left and continue to follow this trail of crystals through here. And that's the end of Crystal Forest. The tutorial is going to pick up right where this leaves off at the end of this cutscene. This next area here, though, is very straightforward. Alright, stay tuned for part 2.